I'm in the process of deleting basically all my sports cards listings on eBay, except for a few that are very important. I'm going to tell you why I'm doing both of those things right now. I have to delete the last 370 right now, and it really is pretty simple. So behind me here are all postcards, right? I started selling postcards years after I started selling sports cards, trading cards. The issue with trading cards is, as many of you know, if you're buying large collections of base cards, the sell-through rate is low, and even the ones that are worth your time are not really worth your time. When I was buying collections and listing routinely, I think at one time I had about 20,000 cards listed. It took me a long time to get there. For reference, it took me a year and a half to get more than 10 times that in postcards listed. They do have a low sell-through rate, probably lower than trading cards, but we'll get to that in a minute, or maybe in a later video. The sell-through rate on trading cards, or the amount of money I made, was like 15 to 20 bucks an hour, which is really not very good. I was exploring the market, I was doing other things, I had ideas of growing this channel you're watching right now, and so it was worth it, I guess, but it's not worth it now. And so what I'm doing is going through and deleting all but my variation listings. What I did in the past, which is, pretty obviously a mistake, was I listed every single card individually. I used some software that exists online, I forget which one I was using, to go through, scan every card, list every card. And here's one that I sold. This was listed in 2021. Desmond Trufant, playoff kickoff, Atlanta Falcons. That's not really a card that anybody wants. If they do want it, they want it for a price that I'm not willing to sell it for. I'm not gonna be selling cards for 25 cents. Some people who just do it for the love of the hobby will, and thank you, great. People like you are how I can collect weird, obscure cards. But I, unfortunately, have financial obligations, and I can't just do things for fun. Everything I do has to at least be making some level of money, at least anything that I'm investing hours and hours and hours into. I've been selling cards in some capacity for 7 years now on eBay, but really going heavy into it was 2021 until 2023 is when I really spent a lot of time building up all of my listings. So what am I gonna do now? Now that I'm deleting everything but my variation listings? Well, two things. I've found that through selling cards a whole bunch, you can fit about 6 cards. You can actually fit 8 cards in one of these envelopes with top loader protection. Well, not top loader technically. They're one touches kind of. I've made videos on those before, I'm pretty sure. And I've also been selling lots of cards as well, 158 Derek Thomas cards. That sells, having all your cards of certain players in lots like that, if you're selling base cards, in my opinion, is the better way of doing it. So 100 Bo Jackson cards is gonna be more worth your time than individually listing every single Bo Jackson card, especially if they're early 90s football cards. A Bo Jackson Pro set by itself is not worth very much, but a Bo Jackson, 100 of them, is worth 15 bucks. And again, that's not that great, but I can take that listing and have it listed in 2 minutes, as opposed to, to individually list 100 Bo Jackson cards would take, at the very least, a half hour with all the scanning and all that stuff. So, probably more like an hour, but I'm just kind of guessing around now. So they're all gone. I went from my last 2,000 listings down to 14, down to 14 listings. And that's just my variation listing. So that's what I'm gonna do as well. If I do, in the future, I still wanna buy large collections of cards, but I'm only gonna sell base cards that are kind of rare and unique or brand new. So I've had luck with old weird cards that are non-sports, to be quite honest with you, but this is a card channel, and I like selling early 90s comic Marvel cards. But then 2025 Sage variation listings, black, purple, red. 2024 Leaf in the Game variation listings. Just I bought a few booster boxes of those. That's done well, and I think it's people who are building their sets out, and that's a system that makes sense. But like, for example, I did 1994 Topps Archives baseball. I listed 180 of them, 181 to be accurate, and only one is sold since June 2nd. So no, that's not true. I had to have done it before then. Well, only one is sold, and it's been months, and that's not okay with me. What am I doing then now? So like right here, I pulled out all these Trevor Lawrence cards. This is maybe 25 Trevor Lawrence cards, rookies, parallels, all that stuff. I'm just going to auction these off. I think that I was probably putting too much value on, or I was too much faith in someone wanting to buy base cards. People were buying base cards for a lot of money in 2020. And that's like when I saw the potential. I overestimated how hungry the market was. I'm not ashamed to say that. You got to take risks sometimes, and that was a risk I took. And now I'm the weights are counteracting. I'm reaching what's it called? A counterbalance is occurring. The pendulum is swinging back. We're getting rid of the listings. Lots of postcards. I mean, I would never be selling postcards if it wasn't for sports cards. I wouldn't have developed the software that I use to list these postcards if I hadn't first developed software to list trading cards. And I wouldn't have done that if I hadn't used someone else's software. And so it's all a journey where you're learning things, and I've used the information that I've to make way more money than I've ever made selling postcards or trading cards for that matter. But that's the way life is. The path of someone who's an entrepreneur or entrepreneurial or self-employed is going to be like this. And sometimes you go down for a long time, and sometimes you're up for a long time, but it's not as steady as we might like it to be. Well, that's why I'm deleting all my sports cards listings. I'd love to hear your feedback. If you've been selling sports cards for a while now, and I'm sure some of you have been doing this for 30, 40 years. So bless us with your knowledge if that's you. And if you've been doing it for 2 years, maybe you are more in tune with the way things go than I am. But whatever it is, I want to hear your feedback on this. Really appreciate you guys sticking around watching these videos, and I'll see you later.